In today's news, Premier Fahie says constitutional review to be led by people and Washington Redskins to change name.
And the LIAT leaves local residents in quite a predicament. All this and so much more when 284 News returns.
There's a reason you get up on a morning. A reason you pick yourself up, start the day. Maybe it's sheer grit. Maybe it's your ethics. Maybe it's because you know people like you are waiting. For people just like you. We all have our reasons, and for Republic Bank, that reason is you. Every little thing, every big thing. It's all about making a difference in your life. Because after 182 years, if it's one thing we're sure about, is that the difference is you. We're here to help.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Welcome everybody. It's Monday, July 13th, 2020. A beautiful day is a wish to each and every one of our viewers, both locally, regionally, and internationally. I'm Ron Grant.
And I am Javon Wilson. Another great week right here in the British Virgin Islands. Now, viewers, it's been a very long weekend.
Indeed.
I know persons are out and about over the weekend. We're celebrating the reopening of Loose Mongoose, for those of you who do not know, after, I think, a three-year hiatus.
Yes.
So welcome back. One of the hospitality establishments, of course, we've been following, and we're very happy for the bounce back in the British Virgin Islands and really speaking to the prospects of tourism as we
Persons
continue
have
to
been waiting
recover.
for something to do, someplace to
Yes.
go and enjoy themselves. So we're happy to see them come back. Another example of local ingenuity setting the pace. Beginning in our newscast today, Premier and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Andrew A. Fahie, has stated that the review of the current Constitution will be led by the people of the Virgin Islands when the constitutional review begins. Premier Fahie, during the sitting of the House of Assembly last week, said that it is important that the public prepares to take part in the review and encourages the populace to read and review the current Constitution. Premier Fahie stated, and I quote, "This means re-familiarizing yourselves with the current existing Constitution so that we are able, as a people, to conduct a comprehensive review to determine whether it is a strategic fit to facilitate the achievement of the aspirations of the Virgin Islands and belongers." Now, Premier Fahie continued by saying citizens of the territory will have the opportunity to discuss and make recommendations on the direction in which the territory should go in the years to come. He said that in order to for citizens to participate meaningfully in the exercise, they must read the Constitution, adding, and I quote, "They must prepare themselves and they must be informed on the discussion." The review would be conducted by a Constitutional Review Commission, which will consist of 9 members, including a chairperson, deputy chairperson, and 5 other members appointed by the Premier. The other 2 members shall be appointed by Her Majesty's loyal opposition. Now, the Commission will be required to organize and conduct public forums in person and virtually as well as other channels for receiving feedback from citizens. An electronic copy, of course, of the Virgin Islands Constitution Order 2007 is available at bvi.gov.vg for download. The Department of Information and Public Relations will be launching a public education awareness campaign which would highlight the current Constitution utilizing varying forms of media, which will include SnapComs, GIS bulletins, press releases, and of course online quizzes. The Virgin Islands Constitution Order 2007, which replaced the Constitution of 1976, believe it or not, Jovan, came into force on June 13th, 2007, and marked its 13th anniversary this year since its enactment in 2007. Now, the Constitution is available again at bvi.gov.vg, and we're encouraging persons to be aware, to read it, and to become more familiar with it as we approach an upcoming constitutional review. You cannot debate, you cannot discuss, and give your feedback if you don't necessarily know the details of the Constitution, and that is very important as a citizen.
You're right. I think this is an opportunity for everyone to familiarize themselves with what is as of right
Yes.
now. And Ron, constitutional review is especially important when you are at a critical juncture as the BVI is. And I think in any evolving society,
Correct.
reforms are important. In speaking to Governor Jaspert most recently in my exclusive interview, he too reiterated his support for constitutional review, and many of the laws of the land are assented to by the governor of the Virgin Islands. So I think this is a step in the right direction. The BVI is currently trying to chart the way
agree.
forward as we move towards greater autonomy. And so this, I think, is
Fitting,
yeah, it's
absolutely
fitting and
fitting.
very timely as well. So good job to, and I'm really hoping too that the public, like the Premier suggested, gets to be a part of the process. Because often, yes, we hear the public will be a part of the discourse, but
That doesn't always happen.
doesn't always happen. So we're really hoping that public consultation will be done, especially because this governs all of us here in the British Virgin Islands. Viewers want to move right along. Following the government's recent announcement that some unemployed expatriates may be forced to return home, many are now worried about the reimbursements from LIAT, which is up for liquidation as we know it. Now, this was confirmed on June 27th by the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, but more clearly expounded on last Friday in a press letter via LIAT's Facebook page that reads, quote, "During the suspension, we have been working with a view to restart our operations as soon as possible. While the board and shareholders have considered numerous proposals to safeguard the survival of LIAT, the COVID-19 crisis has created unprecedented challenges. These challenges have led to options which includes a proposal to liquidate the airline." Now, the airline, which bridges the gap between 15 Caribbean destinations, as we know it, has also failed to provide an update on reimbursement, viewers, leaving some of our residents in a predicament. The press letter further said, quote, "Further information about LIAT's future will only be available after LIAT's next annual general meeting, which has not yet been scheduled," end of quote. Now, viewers, two concerned residents have since spoken to local media, and they're very fearful that monies invested will not be reimbursed. And I'm sure this is the sentiments, Ron, of quite a number of our residents here in the British Virgin Islands. First, there's a former hospitality supervisor who became unemployed as a result of COVID-19 and was left with no other option than to return home. She proceeded to book a flight home with LIAT, but in light of the company's new challenges, she is now worried that the road home will be long. She said, quote, "I'm concerned that I may not receive a refund as I would have booked my return flight with LIAT, which was my sure way home. The airline's liquidation will definitely affect me as not many regional airlines fly directly between Barbados and Tortola. This would require me to spend at least $500 or more to book another flight on the territory." Now, another resident is duly concerned that he may not be able to recoup his credit from the airline as well. He said, "I had planned to take my vacation in Barbados in the month of April, and I would have booked a round trip in March, which cost me $429.70. Now, after COVID was declared a pandemic and started affecting various islands in the region, LIAT announced the cancellation of all flights and credited my account with the money for the ticket. At first, I was looking forward to resumption of their flights after many borders in the territory had started reopening, but after several postponements of their resumption of flights, then hearing the news of a possible liquidation of the airline, that's where my worries started," end of quote. Now, viewers, COVID-19, as we know it, beyond a doubt, has not only brought the global travel industry to a halt, but also bankrupted many of the interrelated brands we know in the industry as well. LIAT, headquartered in Antigua and Barbuda, and of course flying out of Tortola as well, is one such brand that faces liquidation following a series of unsuccessful months due to COVID-19. It was announced that the airline will be formed into a new entity that will provide vital connections between the Caribbean islands. Now, Ron, let me just begin by saying this is a blow to
Indeed.
regional integration. I know LIAT is definitely one of the brands we've known, come to know and love because we can depend on them interconnecting
keeps
the
us
region.
connected, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think this is really sad, especially earlier on we heard that flights will be suspended, and then we see some sort of confirmation on a liquidation. But it really brings to to light the seriousness of this pandemic that we're living in, and the fact that a lot of people have invested their monies and possibly won't be able to recover that money. And usually during a liquidation, I think some of us are the opinion that whoever the claimants, whoever recovers the company, those persons are
Liable,
essentially responsible for those reimbursements. But that is not necessarily the case. So we're really hoping that especially in light of what's happening with COVID-19, we're not sure, but we're hoping that some level of reimbursement can happen.
Jovan, we've had a lot of people join the conversation as it pertains to LIAT and the liquidation. However, our news agency has been not only bombarded by those claims of reimbursement, but we have a lot of persons contacting us wondering, well, I'm not working and I'd like to go home, and been booking flights to LIAT back and forth,
Right.
and nothing is happening. I want to be able to go home.
Right.
So it definitely brings to the forefront the reality and the importance of such a Caribbean airline that joins us all together. What will happen when the Caribbean people cannot just readily get up and go back home or
Right.
travel to and from? I think it's quite important, and leaders across the region should perhaps look at this and see how best they can fit and work it out, because it's quite of paramount importance that we have communication readily available, transit to and from Caribbean islands.
Agreed, and former legislator Honorable Myron Walwyn also reiterated that sentiment, that as leaders in the Caribbean, we need to come together and figure out. I know initially he was suggesting somewhat of a bailout for LIAT. I guess LIAT would have explored those options as well, but here we see them acknowledging that liquidation might be the best possible outcome. So it's very unfortunate. Viewers, we'll continue to follow this one, but we have a lot more news that you need to know. So stick with us. We're going to go for a quick commercial break.
In the final analysis, we have two options: stay inside and create memories that will last forever, or go outside and say goodbye to those memories. We're not stuck inside, we're safer inside. The time is now to unite, embrace, and love each other from a distance. Show the world and the people in it just how much they mean to you by keeping your distance. It may be difficult, but necessary. Let's reintroduce humanity and heart to all homes. While we can't enjoy the sun, sand, and sea, let's take this time to remember why we are nature's little secrets. Stay inside, and when it's over, we would all be better, stronger, and we would all still be together. With self-discipline and patience, we can overcome. We are, have been, and will always be VI Strong. A message from your team at 284 Media.
Viewers, welcome back to 284 News. Now on to our next story. Stakeholders involved in the establishment of the Halls of Justice met on July 9th to discuss the design elements and layout for the Magistrate's Courts phase of the project. The meeting was chaired by Deputy Governor Mr. David Archer and sought to discuss the layout of courtrooms and offices, building occupancy, external and internal security, information technology requirements, traffic and parking requirements, and the provisions for judges' quarters. Mr. Archer said, quote, "It remains important for the building to be designed and constructed in a way that stands the test of time, as opposed to focusing on something that is modern and trendy. We have the perfect opportunity to construct something that is iconic to the territory, but it must also serve the needs of all involved." End of quote. Now, the Recovery and Development Agency will be responsible for the establishment of the user requirements documents based on the needs expressed by the stakeholders, and will guide the project's direction while coordinating the work of the design form. And subsequently, the contractor engaging the Deputy Governor's Office and the users at this stage will ensure that the project is developed in a way that meets the standards of the courts. Now, Acting Chief Executive Officer of RDA, Mr. Anthony McMaster, said, quote, "The architectural firm Trojan Design and Development Limited is responsible for the creation of the full set of designs, including the engineering elements, using the information gathered from the stakeholder consultation, which is essential to the effective layout and flow." End of quote. Mr. McMaster also added that once the preliminary designs are completed, The RDA will re-engage the users to ensure that the design satisfies their requirements before completing the further outputs. Now, the design phase of the Magistrate's Court is expected to be completed by the first quarter of 2021, with the construction of the building being completed in 2022. The project is being funded by the Government of the Virgin Islands with input from the CDB loan, as we all know, as well as the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Ron, great news as it relates to the architecture of our judicial system.
Which we're looking forward to.
Absolutely. So we see all the stakeholders coming together and having the conversation. And what I really love about this too is that, yes, we are in a pandemic. Yes, we are in the hurricane season, but we're still forging the way forward as it relates to what is required to run a just and fair society.
Most definitely. Continuing on out of the international scene, there will be no more, and I say no more, Washington Redskins. After today, Monday, the football team will still be there. It will just have another name, according to ESPN. The site reported last night that while the team won't announce its new name right away, it will announce today, Monday, that it will no longer do away with its controversial Redskins nickname, which has been announced. Sports Business Daily first reported the news according to ESPN, and it said, and I quote, "A new name would not be announced because a trademark issues are considered." Now, this comes a week after ESPN's Adam Schefter reported the team, whose logo had been an Indian chief since 1971, would not any longer use a Native American imagery this season. ESPN said the team is expected to keep its burgundy and gold colors. The Redskins said in early July they would review the team's nickname. Washington owner Dan Snyder famously told US Today in 2013, and I quote, put it in all caps, that he would never change the name, ESPN said. Now, the name has come under numerous fire, especially in recent years, as being offensive to Native American culture. It has faced increased scrutiny in recent months, and ESPN reported 87 investors, I repeat, 87 investors and shareholders worth $620 billion sent a letter to sponsors FedEx, Pepsi, Nike, requesting the discontinuement of business with the team if they continue to use Redskins. Now, FedEx issued a statement on July 2nd, according to the report, stating and saying that it had told the team it wanted to see a name change, and the other sponsors followed suit. Jovan, we are living in some very interesting times, and I am so proud to be alive in this day and age where persons of all ages, of all creeds, both locally, regionally, and internationally, have been making a stand as it pertains to what is now and what has always been offensive to various cultures. To bring it back home, we see locally where local advertisement companies such as CCT has withdrawn their advertisement based on a local cartoon that was placed on a news site where they frequent advertisement, making a stance to say that it's not okay, it's unacceptable when you disrespect cultures, and just to think that this has been going on with the Washington Redskins for a number of years, and only now it's coming to the forefront. I think it's quite instrumental and important, but we are seeing a change, and as Sam Cooke said, a change is going to come, and that change is here.
It's definitely here. 2020 for many has been, like you said, a very strange year. A lot is happening, Ron, but equally it's an opportunity for us to capitalize on the changes that are taking place. I think some would consider this unprecedented.
It is.
You know, and what's happening too, especially with the Black Revolution across the world, is we're learning to shed light on things that may have gone unseen before. And so I'm really happy to see the conversations that is forging as a result of what's happening across the world. So good stuff.
The change is here, and we are here for it.
Yes.
Continuing on, Florida hits a record high of COVID-19 cases increase, and celebrity-related deaths. A lot on the international scene going on, but we have it all here at 284 News. All this and more after a word from our sponsors.
I love you, Penny. Run, Forrest, run! This one goes to the peaceful old, go just one take and ghetto. To the ghetto. This is a bit in this hole.
Having withdrawals from being stuck in the house for so long? Are you tired of looking at your old photos and daydreaming about your next vacation? Well, BVI Staycation is back and there's so much to choose from. For more information on upcoming deals, follow us on Facebook at BVI Staycation. Get ready, BVI, for an adventure in paradise. It's time to vacation where we live.
Viewers, welcome back. You're watching 284 News. Now, out of St. Petersburg, Florida, with the United States grappling and literally grappling with the worst coronavirus outbreak in the world, Florida has hit a grim milestone on Sunday, shattering the national record for the state's largest single-day increase in positive cases. Now, deaths from the virus have also been rising in the U.S., especially in the South and West. Now, though we see a very large persons, a number of persons dying as a result of the virus. We have a quote rather, out of the Johns Hopkins University. I really do think, and I quote, I really do think we hope the control and continue to try to control this, and it's the human element that is so crucial. It should be an effort of our country. We should be pulling together, and we're in a crisis, and we're definitely not doing it, said University of Florida of John Hopkins epidemiologist Dr. Cindy Prinz. Now, a number of persons have joined on the bandwagon in pushing for the continual closing of the states, but nonetheless, many states have continued to be reopened, with persons pushing the economy and the level of increase that continues on. Now, when we look at this, one of the persons who are close to the Secretary of the Health and Human Services Department told ABC that we will not get control of the virus. I don't think we will get control of the virus. President Donald Trump wore a mask in public for the first time Saturday, something Democrat House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said Sunday showed he has crossed a bridge. Now, Pelosi told CNN that State of the Union that she hopes it means that President will continue and change the attitude that he has, which will be helpful in stopping the spread of the coronavirus. Now, in a hard-hit Houston, Texas, 2 Democrats officially called for the nation's 4th largest city to lock back down again as hospitals stained and continue to be strained to accommodate the onslaught of sick patients. Again, in Florida, where parts of Walt Disney World reopened on Saturday, 15,299 people tested positive for a total of 268,811 cases, and 45 deaths were recorded according to the State Department health statistics on Sunday. Now, California, of course, had the previous record of a daily positive cases of 11,694 cases. That is of Wednesday. The numbers come at the end of a record-breaking week, as Florida reported 514 fatalities, an average of 73 persons a day, believe it or not, Jovan.
Wow.
3 weeks ago, the state was averaging 30 deaths per day. Researchers expect deaths to rise in the U.S., unfortunately, for at least some weeks, but some think the count probably will not go up as dramatically as it did in the spring because of several factors, including the increased testing. Now, the World Health Organization, meanwhile, reported another record increase in the number of confirmed coronavirus cases over a 24-hour period at 230,000. The UN also, the health agency, said that the United States again topped the list among countries with more than 66,000 cases. Now, the figure doesn't necessarily account for delays in reporting cases, which are being believed to be underestimated of the actual totals. But we see, Jovan, where Florida is topping and continues to struggle, as well as a lot of other parts in the U.S. continue to struggle with the rising count of coronavirus cases. Many persons sometimes seems to think that we are out of the loop, but I think this is a clear indication that we have a long, long way to go.
Definitely. A lot of our local legislators say whenever the U.S. Sneezes, we catch a flu or we catch a cold, and that's the reality we're facing.
I'm gonna need them to keep that cold though.
Right? Can you keep that? Yeah, you can keep that. But it just really speaks to the reality, like you said, that, you know, the BVI tourism industry is supported primarily by American tourists.
Yeah.
That's where our tourists and the tourism, just how our tourism industry is sustained. And based on the numbers, persons are saying some are projecting it to go down, but other persons are saying that these rising numbers just may be the tip of the iceberg. And so it's a
yeah.
major concern. But what we continue to see in Florida especially is persons just defying the rules. They're not in compliance at all as it relates to wearing a mask, not being in crowded areas, simply sanitization. So we see the numbers continue to climb, but we are also celebrating a recent victory for New York. New York last Saturday, for the very first time, was able to record no
deaths,
COVID-related deaths within a 24-hour period. Some might consider it a small victory, but to a place like New York City that happened to be the epicenter of coronavirus cases, that is a major win for them. And again, we just continue to monitor what's going on the international scene because, again, that energy trickles down to us here in the BVI. Our economies depend on tourism, so we have to continue to be very mindful of what's happening on the international scene. And our final story for today, we're seeing quite a surge in deaths, I should say celebrity-related deaths, Ron.
Yes.
Miss Kelly Preston, who played a dramatic and comic foil to actors ranging from Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire to Arnold Schwarzenegger in Twins, has died over the weekend. The 57-year-old's death was confirmed by her husband of 28 years, Mr. John Travolta, of course, another giant in the industry, via Instagram. And his post read, quote, "It is with a very heavy heart that I inform you that my beautiful wife, Kelly, has lost her 2-year battle with her breast cancer," end of quote. He also said that she fought a courageous fight with the love and support of so many. Now, viewers, the world is also mourning the death of Mr. Elvis Presley's grandson, Mr. Benjamin, who lost his life at just 27 years old. This again happening over the weekend. His death was confirmed by his mother's representative, Mr. Widianowski, who said, quote, "Lisa Presley, who of course is the mother of this young man, is entirely heartbroken and inconsolable and beyond devastated, but trying to stay strong for her 11-year-old twins and her oldest daughter, Riley." Now, Benjamin had a really striking resemblance, you're going to see shortly on the screen, to
Indeed, he
his
did.
grandfather, of course, the famous Elvis Presley, and at this time, the cause of his death is still unknown as we know it. And finally, viewers, we see a YouTube star, and I mean, I know this one personally, Ron, big fan of Nicole Thea, dying at the tender age of 24 years old, along with her unborn baby. Now, viewers, this London-based influencer's family confirmed the news on Sunday in an Instagram post stating that Tia's unborn son had also died. The quote, the post said, "To all Nicole's friends and supporters, it is with great sadness that I have to inform you that Nicole and her son has passed away on Saturday morning," the statement said. The message explained that Tia had pre-scheduled a few YouTube videos to upload on her channel before her death, and her boyfriend, Boga, had made a decision to allow them to be aired. Now, the family is asking for privacy, saying, quote, "Our hearts are truly broken and we are struggling to cope with what has happened." Now, the cause of Tia's death, again, is still yet to be known, but the former dancer was around 8 months when she died, 8 months pregnant, that is. Now, by the time of her death, she had amassed a whopping 80,000 subscribers on her YouTube channel, very popular, where she often discussed her pregnancy journey and posted content featuring her boyfriend, who is also a street dancer. Now, Ron, I know I missed everything that is already going on in the world. It's, you know, it's a lot. And we've been seeing quite a number of shocking deaths. Most recently, there's an actress from Glee that went missing. She went, I think, sailing with her 4-year-old son. And just before coming onto this newscast, we're realizing that her body was found because her body disappeared in the lake. Finally, a body, so now she has been pronounced dead. But just a really unfortunate turn of events. I know losing a family in any time is
But
generally
particularly
hard,
amidst
but
COVID-19,
amidst
yeah.
COVID-19, I think that is just incredibly hard to deal with. So again, viewers, our hearts and our condolences goes out to the families and friends, and especially anyone who would have lost someone in this time, because again, it cannot be an
I
easy
agree.
thing.
Yeah.
Viewers, that is it for today's news roundup. Be sure to like us on Facebook at 284 Media. We're also on Instagram and Twitter at 284BVI. My name is Javon Wilson.
And I'm Ron Grant. We will see you tomorrow as we continue to do our daily dose of local, regional, and of course international content. We want to wish you a great week. It's Monday. Get ready. We're going to have some fun this week. Enjoy it and be safe, guys. Bye-bye.